Hello, guys. It's Chris here from the Football League Hub. So, obviously, there's been a few updates regarding Solskjaer's future at Manchester United. And we understand that it's still in the balance. That's not changed. What's changed slightly is obviously there was a lot of news and a lot of stuff going around regarding Solskjaer and the likelihood of him not continuing at Manchester United. So what's happened in the last 24 hours? Because I can appreciate it's been slightly confusing, not just for you, obviously for the media and myself included in that, and a lot of mixed messages coming out of Old Trafford. There's been a lot of player leaks. You know, the Italian press was saying Conte was looking likely for Manchester United, but I'll delve into that in a little bit because it's not entirely true. Ferguson getting involved, and there's been a lot of things go on that obviously has caused some displeasure on Twitter and some of the social platforms ultimately. So, which is understandable because you know after losing 5-0, you expect a reaction of sorts or something that's come out there, but instead we've just had a lot of negative press, and the club hasn't really done anything to dispel that. So what's happened is that the board that met on Monday to discuss Solskjaer's future. And it was looking incredibly bleak for Solskjaer because there was a lot of information for some of the players, mostly fringe players, the likes of Pogba. There's been some kind of things that have come out regarding his tactics, and that was openly said in an interview by the likes of Pogba about the tactics. So you can tell that they weren't protecting the manager itself. So that in itself is a major issue. When you start to lose the dressing room, you should no longer be a manager of the club because those players are not going to play for you. But there's a little bit more to that. And then obviously you've got the fans. And what happened is the board discussed the options, and one of the options was Conte. And obviously that's still not off the table. That could happen in a week or two, depending on the results, which we'll talk about in a minute. But Conte, the issue that Manchester United have got with Conte is that he could probably be slightly disruptive towards him, and I disagree. I think he's got the winning mentality to take Manchester United forward. But because they had those reservations and they didn't have a plan in place straight after the Liverpool game, because they didn't expect 5-0 and no one did. They thought it'd be a quite close game. I would have expected it after losing Leicester City 4-2 that the writing's on the wall. But this is the Glazers. They're slightly hesitant in the way they approach. There's a lot of old school sort of structure that they've got in place with the likes of Ferguson on the board and those sort of things. But that's just the way it is with them. So what they've said is that they need more time to have a look for a replacement. And I have stressed in the last podcast that it was a potential that obviously Solskjaer would go manage against Spurs, which is the case now. And I kind of expected that a little bit. So what they need is a little bit more time on who is the perfect replacement of the club. Now, that might still be Conte, but obviously they've got to discuss that with the camp. There's been no official talks of any manager whatsoever, out of respect for Solskjaer and obviously his coaching staff. He would go first before they were discussing officially. Obviously, they do the informal talks, but there's been no official talks for Conte. I did put a tweet out that it's all from Conte's camp and the Italian press pushing for the move for Conte. They're quite close with each other, so that's where it's coming from at the moment. There isn't anything from United to say, okay, let's sit down and have a chat. That's not happened. Ultimately, that could happen, and it could change at the Spurs game, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But as it stands with Conte, there are still some reservations on the board, including Ferguson, who's quite influential in those sort of things. So the Glazers were torn between, sacking Solskjaer or how do we deal with Solskjaer? What do we do with Solskjaer? And one of the things is that because his staff is so inexperienced and they don't have anyone in there that can sort of manage if Solskjaer goes, is they felt at this point in time that actually we should see what Solskjaer does before the international break. Give us a little bit more time and we can look at a replacement and not sort of cause a knee-jerk reaction or reactionary. That's their words. I disagree with it potentially, but That's up to them. If it's not reactionary after losing 5-2 and 4 to Liverpool and then 4-2 to Leicester and only scraping through to Atlanta and 1 point in 12. You see, so. But what they don't feel anyone can take over Solskjaer at the moment at the club. So they just want a little bit more time. And that's the reasons why Solskjaer has still got his job. Now, the long-term future of Solskjaer, they haven't given him any insurances. So there is nothing there to say that he's going to be in charge after the international break. The thing that I would criticize about what they're doing at the moment, and the issue that they've got is that they're allowing a manager to have another game. So they're allowing him to go against Spurs. And if they go and beat Spurs and they go and get a result, midweek in the Champions League and, do fairly well at Man City, then they're in a situation that's more embarrassing than it is now, which is, you'd think it's impossible to do. But they then, would struggle to sack Solskjaer because he's gone and got the results that they've asked for. So they have to allow him to continue. And I guess that's a lot of concerns from the fans, is that if he goes and beats Spurs and goes and wins, the other couple of games, then he might go on and run, but it's not going to be significant enough to be successful. And we've seen this with him in the past. So, the time was now to do it. And they haven't done it because they felt there was no one that could come in while they look for a replacement. However, if you're allowing the manager to stay there and you're still searching for a replacement and he performs well, then you're not going to sack him. And so that's the situation we're in, and it's quite messy from the club to do it that way. But again, this is the Glazers and how they act. So that's imbalanced in my view. So we'll have to wait and see with that. Now, if he loses against Tottenham and he is in charge against Spurs, unless, some of the players massively go against it, which hasn't happened yet, then obviously if he loses against Spurs, then there's no way back for him. They will have to look for an alternative solution that they didn't want to do. But international break, I think, will be key for where they would potentially get a new manager. I just can't see these players wanting to perform for Solskjaer anymore because they're extremely baffled by the tactics. And I already said that days ago, and that's coming out now. They're not happy with some of the coaching sessions, and they think Solskjaer has taken the club to a good level, but they want someone to take them to that winning level. And they've got a lot of players like Ronaldo and Varane have come in. He's not playing Sancho. There's a lot of man management issues there, especially with Donny van der Beek. There's a lot of issues coming over that I've said. So, it's not all rosy for Solskjaer. And I think he knows that his long-term future of the club that he sort of had an ambition for is no longer there. And in modern football, you don't have that anymore. So Solskjaer's going to get replaced. If he wins these 3 games and he continues till the end of the season, that might happen. But as I said, I don't see him beating Spurs, or I can see him being sacked after that game if he doesn't perform well. But again, it's a strange decision by the board. Obviously, Ferguson has backed it as well, and he thinks that he has reservations around Conte as well, so he doesn't think that Conte is suited for United. But again, Conte wants the job and he's passionate about it. He's won wherever he's gone, so I don't quite understand the ethos around that. But obviously, there might be, Ferguson might have slight bias in the sense of Solskjaer was one of his players. He wants to achieve, he wants to see someone like that he's brought up through the ranks to succeed at the club. But it's kind of an old way, and I don't think that fits in the current environment for Premier League now. The likes of Chelsea, who sacked Lampard as soon as he wasn't performing, Manchester United have to do the same now. Conte's available, he wants to join, so why not have a go at him? It's not going to be as worse as it is now, so we'll have to wait and see. But those are the reasons why, is that Solskjaer, they didn't think anyone can take over it as an interim period, so they want to see what he does in the next couple of games. They were swaying towards sacking him. It was likely, everyone around the club had a feeling that he was gone. But then Joel Glazer, Woodward, Arnold, Murta and Ferguson all sat down and discussed it, and that's the way forward that they felt, just to give him a little bit more time. And I don't agree with it, but that is their decision. All I would say now is to get behind the club itself, and that's what they want. but I wouldn't get behind the manager as such because you're supporting the club, and I don't see a way forward for Solskjaer anymore. But that again, that is where it is, and there's a lot of issues with the players. In regards to some of the shortlist, Zidane hasn't reached out, so there's been nothing from Zidane. No dialogue. He hasn't discussed anything. He's not that type of manager, I believe, that just goes chasing jobs, which you can see. His only jobs have been Madrid, and they came after him the second time as well. So he kind of doesn't chase. So that's something that United would have to approach. But I believe he's waiting for another job, and that is the potential, because although he said he would accept Manchester United's offer if they did come, I do think that he's waiting for something else now, because we've not heard much around it. And obviously the Ajax manager, Ten Hag, he's not going to leave till the end of the season. So is it you take the short-term pain now to get the long-term game? I don't know if he's proven yet, so he needs a little bit more time. So for me, you're looking at Conte or Zidane, and you kind of need to make a decision now. But they're going to drag it on till the international break by the looks of things. And again, it's up to the Glazers. They haven't discussed much with the British media. So the British media have been sending out all sorts of stories, which a lot of it's nonsense, by the way. And Fabrizio, he had a little funny thing this morning with the video about sacking, which is obviously pre-recorded. A lot of journalists do that, as I said. But people were expecting it, and it didn't happen. So this is the problem with the club at the moment: is they make topsy-turvy decisions when they want. So we're going to have to wait and see. And I stress that if he doesn't beat the Spurs game, then they will have to do it at that point, because they have no other choice. There's no excuse now not to do it. But again, they just allows them that time to find the perfect replacement. While Solskjaer's in the job, I feel a little bit sorry for him in the sense of that he probably knows that's going to happen. So we'll have to wait and see. And obviously, I don't think we're going to have to wait too long. We'll have to see what Spurs do against Manchester United, because they're down and out at the moment, United. So if they lose that game, then he's definitely gone. If they keep him after that and we don't hear anything, the Glazers have lost the plot even more than they have. So we'll have to see in the coming days. Obviously, I'll keep you updated. I'll probably be off socials in the next couple of days because there won't be a lot of news. There'll be a lot of nonsense, by the way, about leaks of players, and there's half of the stuff that I've seen for some of the journalists have been pretty poor, and some of it hasn't been true. So just keep an eye on that one. And as I said, that I told you there's a potential of him taking Spurs, and he has. So we'll have to wait and see, as I said. But it's a really brief update about the reasons of why the club have done that. So just to summarize on it, the club do not feel they have a perfect replacement now to sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They also don't feel that if they do sack Solskjaer, that they have anyone, even Fletcher's not experienced, they don't have anyone in the club that's experienced to do these next 3 games. At least Solskjaer's coached these players in the past. Well, managed, sorry, not coached. So it's a little bit different. But as I said, they'll try and give him that chance, and that's up to them. That's their choice if they want to do that. I don't know, it's not the right thing to do, but that's where they are. So they don't think anyone's experienced in there. Pochettino, who is massively loved at Manchester United, he's not available, despite the rumours about PSG and not being happy. He's top of the table. I know their style of play, they haven't started very well, and there's things about Messi not being in certain positions and some of the players like Neymar and those sort of things, but they're top of their respectful leagues and the Champions League, so he's not going to go anywhere this year. So the likelihood is that they feel they're stuck with just one choice, but they want to have multiple. So they don't think the time is right now, but they might have to act after Spurs, and I will keep you updated. This is very short, but I just wanted to summarize for you. Don't believe everything that you see in the media about certain stuff, because Man United's trending right now. So the papers can make a lot of stories up to get the news driven to their interactions, to their papers, and give those stories. So just stick to the sort of the mainstream media, the ones that don't look a little bit outlandish. But as I said, guys, it's very brief. Make sure that you do subscribe to my channel. Make sure that you look on my Twitter, either Avenger Snake or Football League Hub. I don't post a lot on Football League Hub at the moment, but I will towards the transfer window. Look on our Instagram page. I'll probably start posting on there again. And come and join us in our Discord, because there's a lot of fans in there, although some of them are quite angry. you know, it's a safe place for you to express yourself without the sort of toxicity that you get on Twitter. So just keep an eye on the updates, and I'll keep you posted, and hopefully we'll have something else. Saturday evening, we'll do another podcast again if I get some updates regarding it. So thank you, guys. Speak to you soon.